Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder and CEO of People Productive. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Terri Mayes, a certified culture engineer. Now, hopefully you're joining us today because you really want to learn about how to build an innovative culture. First episode, we went through innovative culture strategy. Today, episode 2, we're looking at competitive threat as inspiration. And this is very important because as you're building this culture, one of the things you have to realize is how you've got to align the whole organization. Humans really align extremely well around a competitive threat. You're almost like a tribe. You understand the external market and the environment, and you're going to basically challenge your organization to overcome this threat. And so you've got to make it very real. You've got to have a destination. You haven't figured out what the destination is. You're going to tap the creativity of the organization to really define what that future looks like. But there's a better place out there. And what humans really respond to is this notion of a journey. We're almost hardwired for this, a journey to somewhere new. And so just as the seasons change, humans are always wandering to some new destination. You're taking your organization to a new place. And you're going to use this competitive threat as an inspiration and rallying point to get everybody in the organization starting to come together, to understand that they're going somewhere. We'll talk about how that gets broken down and basically spread throughout the organization in a way that it's actionable at every level. But this is very important. You've got to get this piece right. And, it's so funny. We had episodes on productivity, and we talked about how 40% of the work in most organizations produces no value. You could look at the human factors of productivity and find out what to do about that. How could you get 90% of the work people doing productive? And how can you not be one of the 45% of the CEOs who believe their company won't be viable in 10 years? Well, that's because they can't innovate. They got organizational cultures that suck. They can't innovate, and they know they're in trouble. And it's probably not going to take 10 years for a lot of these people to disappear. But if they don't upgrade the way they lead and start embracing these human factors of leadership, human factors of innovation, all this stuff, it's game over. I don't care. I don't care what happens. It's game over for them. And just like the dinosaurs went away, and new organisms better adapted to the new environment won. And that's what's happening. We're in a new world. It's a new environment. It's a digital era. You've got to adapt for that. There's no question about it. So understanding this is really important because you got to tap that energy, the passion, mood of the organization. You got to unlock it. You got to unleash it. You've got to get people going. So this is a very important step in really you're going somewhere, right? You got to be going somewhere good, and it's got to be exciting.
You've got to have a rallying cry. You've got to have something that's a focal point, the vision. You've got to cast vision at this point. You've got to let people know this is where we're going. You've got to allow people the space to dream. So you want to use whatever this threat is as motivation. You don't want to see the threat, and many organizations and many different industries are going through all sorts of change. And, a lot, even especially during COVID, we saw the way that we consume products and goods completely and radically changed during COVID. And some of those changes have persisted on post-COVID. We're not in the heat of COVID as much as we were when we were locked down. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. So organizations had to innovate. They were forced into that space. And so you want to use that same kind of momentum of having this central point and focus so that you're not just rolling over and dying. During COVID, some organizations were not able to sustain because they couldn't bring together a good rallying cry in order to reinvent themselves. That forced reinvention that happened for a lot of organizations didn't for others. And it was mainly because they couldn't come with a rallying cry. They couldn't see a vision for the future. They couldn't see another way. And so you don't want your organization to be stuck in, this is the way we do things. This is the way we always will do things. This is the way we've always done them. It's always going to be this way, because you never know what kind of threat is going to come into your environment that forces you to be different. And if your people are not trained to be creative thinkers, they're not trained to be innovative thinkers, then you're left with an organization that really is kind of stuck, and you're not going to be able to reinvent yourself when that threat comes along, and you really are going to just fade away to the side. Those organizations that cannot reinvent themselves and spark new creative ideas, create environments where people can be creative, then they're going to have struggles in this generation that we're in now, because things are changing, and they're changing at such a rapid pace. I mean, if you even think about just some of the ways that we order products and goods through Amazon, now it's, and even Google.
Yeah.
So now when you're looking for information, you Google it. It has become a term where you just go Google it, or you just go YouTube it. I can remember when
Oh,
YouTube
I love it.
came out,
I love
and
that part of it. I can fix
like,
anything by YouTubing it.
yeah, I was just like, who wants to watch all these videos on YouTube? It's so boring. And now I can't imagine not being able to watch videos on YouTube. So those companies had to figure out a way. If you think about Amazon selling books out of the garage, how crazy is that to think of where they are now? They couldn't just stay stuck in, but we're a company that sells books out of the
Yeah, we're an
garage.
online bookstore. Rah, rah.
They had to innovate. They had to be creative. They had to think outside of the box. And now it's almost like you can get almost any service you need on Amazon.
Well, who would have thought that that Amazon would be the first one to come up with data centers in the cloud on demand?
Right.
They were a bookseller. Did IBM come up with it? Did Google come up with it? Did Microsoft come up with it? No, they're followers. The online retailer was the one who came up with that. I mean, they needed it to run their own company, to be agile, fast, and to be able to scale their company, and they turned that into a business. That's an innovative company.
Very innovative.
No question. I mean, it's amazing.
And you have to have that kind of, again, you've got to have a central point. You've got to have some vision and focus. So as an organization, and especially as leaders in that organization, you have to give people the vision that you want them to have. Otherwise, they will create their own vision, and they'll create their own rallying cry, and they will go in the direction that may not be the direction you want them to go in.
That's
So
right. About alignment.
you have to create that alignment by sharing and casting the vision early on. You can't wait for the threat to become imminent, and then you start to try to figure out, what am I going to do about this threat? Once you sense that threat on the horizon, that's the time to really start to develop your strategies and plans, and really even before that, because once you start to see it fully, it's getting very close, and it's going to be very difficult to move rapidly if you have not been all along creating this kind of agile culture and environment where people can thrive.
Yeah,
So
you
you
should
want
be
to get
working
that
on
foundational thing done first, so that when these threats start coming, which they are, it's just inevitable. It's the way that we live now. There's always going to be change. So you want to have your organization positioned so that it can best respond to those changes, and best create the new solutions that need to be created.
Yeah. And in the last episode, we went through levels of culture maturity. You've got to be at level 3, at least, as an organization, because when this external threat arrives, and if you don't think there's an external threat, you really aren't paying attention. I trust you. There is one. We're in an age of disruption. Things are changing so quickly. The status quo isn't going to save you. There is just no question about it. Things are going to change, and they're going to change rapidly and suddenly if you aren't paying attention. In the next episode, we're going to be looking at external focus and having an externally focused organization. If you're an inwardly focused organization, and not that you aren't going to be inwardly focused because you're doing both, but you got to be an externally focused organization that's operating at level 3 collaborative to get to this level 4 of innovative. And you want to certainly have taken your organization up to that highest level of collaboration, which is this fully or deeply collaborative level 3. There's 3 tiers within each one of these culture maturity levels. If you're at level 1 or 2, you're done. It takes a while to actually remove all that toxicity and all that baggage, get to level 3. You should be moving through level 3 now, working on these innovative culture factors or drivers, and getting your way onto level 4. And so it's methodical. You've got to do this along the way. I assure you that there is some threat out there that poses a survival challenge. And so that competitive threat is in essence the external enemy. Humans always rally around, these survival moments where external enemies come along, and it's a competitor, and that starts to focus their minds and helps them to really work together to overcome this challenge for group survival. So the threats have to be made clear, and a destination has to be made clear. That's the journey they're going on. You're not going to define that journey in great detail, but you're going to make it clear that here's where we're going. Let's all pull together and get there. These are the cards we have to play, and get everybody excited and moving in the direction of a better future. And so that starts to build now something called strategic trust. Because if you looked at the maturity level 2, it's safety for both present and future. Future is strategic trust. I trust these leaders to get us to a good place in the future. That means it's safe for me to be here, to relax, to help contribute to this. And so the many reasons you've got to do this as a leader. You've got to build that strategic trust. You've got to get that, the organization energized and working on this challenge. And we'll show you how all these different, factors of innovation unfold as you take your company on this journey to future success, because that's really what this is about. And so it's very exciting, to know that you can lead in this transformational way. And that's what the future is about. It is the age of disruption. You've got to be a transformational leader. In order to be a transformational leader, you've got to understand all these culture maturity levels, the human factors of leadership, the human factors of productivity, human factors of innovation. You've got to be applying them. And you've got to understand the human side of the enterprise in great detail, because that is the tool that's going to take you to the future. If you think AI is going to kick out the strategy and get everybody motivated and energized to build a better future, it isn't happening. It can augment what you're doing with some thoughts and things. I'm always amazed with what it can come up with, but it's not going to get you where you need to go at all, because anybody can use that. It's what you're going to do to out innovate that really matters, and how you're going to move faster, which is human. And so next week, we'll be looking at, the externally focused organization. A lot of very cool episodes here that you can use to really survive as a company and thrive going into the future. And so we're here every Wednesday afternoon at 3:00 Eastern. I hope you can join us for the next episode, because it's another winner. Hope to see you there.
Yes. Bye for now.